Hello and welcome to Let's Craft with Kara. I I am mostly a knitter, but I sometimes crochet. And yeah, I'm most excited to talk about the Stephen West Mystery MusiKAL. With me today is the little nugget who you can see her just a little. There we go, little sleepy girl. This is Mahogany. She's our little pit mix, and she's probably like 6, maybe 7 years old, not really sure. We also have a French bulldog named Ginger. We've got her until May. She has lost her couch privileges because she pooped in the shower. I I've never had a dog who did that, so that to me is insane. Let me know in the comments if your dog has ever pooped in the shower. Insane to me. So she's not allowed on the couch right now. Those are the repercussions. She has to live 24 hours without couch privileges after she's peed or pooped in the house. But she's a little French bulldog, just like Stephen West's little pets, which is fun. I wonder if Brioche has ever pooped in Stephen's shower. Probably not. Today I'm wearing a sea glass cardigan, I think by Wool and Pine, and I honestly might take it off, but it's made out of like DK scraps, which was really fun to go through and figure out which ones I liked. I did it with a main color, which was this light green. That I don't recall what it was, but it was some commercial dyed yarn, and then the rest are all little things that I either picked up during traveling or things like that, which is really fun. Or like something else that I made and I had little bits of scrap. So it's all DK, which means it's quite warm. I'm also in pajamas right now. They're little sheepy ones, so that way they very much fit the theme right now. Because I could have put jeans on, but instead I'm cozy. I hope you're cozy too. Let's all be cozy together, you know? I got some water. If you're like a tea or a coffee drinker, I hope you've got something nice as well. I right now don't have anything that I'm stitching on, but I hope that while you're watching, you're stitching, because that's always what I love doing during these podcasts. And that's the whole reason why I'm doing this, is I feel like there's kind of less Stephen West MusiKAL podcasts than there were for other shawls that he's made. So I wanted to fill that void, like Gandhi said, paraphrase, to be the change you want to see, right? So I'm providing a podcast. Let's see if this goes well. Just a little bit about me. I, again, knit and crochet. I learned both when I was in middle school, and then I really I think like senior year of high school, started knitting, and then had a blanket that I finished when I had an apartment in college. So it took at least 4 years to finish, and it is a gigantic blanket. And after that, it worked out perfect because so many of my friends all had kids pretty quickly after. So I learned really well how to knit different things. And I was never one to like really focus on a pattern. I would pick up a technique and like cast on how many they said, but I was always like, if it's 10 over or 10 under, I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. Because the baby blankets, they never really needed to be perfect. So that was always something that I liked about just making flat rectangles or whatever shape I decided to make. And so lots of people needed baby blankets. Needed is a strong word, but that was always my go-to baby shower gift. I really recommend for people who know that a lot of their friends want to have children, learn something handmade before all that happens, and then give them handmade gifts. You save tons of money and you learn a fun craft. So I started with the Stephen West shawls as an adventurous beginner. I previously had only made like headbands, and as I mentioned, many, many baby blankets. But I had done like interlock with the baby blankets. I had done like a cable headband. I was one who was always checking out library books and trying to learn something new, and then just like making modifications. But I had never paid for a pattern on Ravelry before. I didn't know half of the things that Ravelry could do. And I was really excited to learn when I heard about that this crazy designer who does all these fun, wacky things was making this mystery, which I really was intrigued by. And all you needed to know how to do was knit, purl, and as bonuses, increase and decrease. But even that, he's got videos to teach you how to increase and decrease. So my very first shawl was shawlography. And I learned so much during this shawl. This one was 5 colors, and a good representation of which colors I chose is here. This is kind of what I anticipated the shawl having, is like big, bold stripe moments. And going in with predictions is always fun, but going in with expectations can get you let down. So if you expect something in a mystery knit along and you haven't done it before, maybe instead of hoping for something, just go in with like, I wonder if this will happen. But yeah, so I thought that this would happen a lot more. And instead, as you can see, a lot of things happen in this shawl. This one was so fantastic because it was so potato chippy. As soon as you learned one technique, like I had never done short rows before since I had never done garments. This was learning short rows. I had never done these like big slip stitches, and I was so worried that these would get caught on doors and hooks and things like that, and I haven't had any problems. Then we had these I-cord things, which I had never done before. I turned my little notorious shrimps into a braided I-cord because of a Ravelry conversation. I'll circle back to that. And then I loved the way that these 2 colors danced around. So I even made the modification of adding 2 extra purple rows. Everybody else had 4, but I wanted 6. Just because I could tell that I really liked the way that those 2 colors were meshing together. I didn't know what was going to happen for the rest of it, but I was like, this is my favorite section so far. It might be my favorite section in the whole thing. Let's make it a little bigger. So I did, and I was very happy with that. It's also fun to know that in Stephen West shawls, you can make modifications, and it works out great. Then this one has welts in it. First time I had ever done that. These little guys, I think you did like 1 whole yellow row and you just slipped some of the blue stitches, and then you did 1 blue row and you slipped some of the yellow stitches. So it was very nice. It wasn't actually color work. And so it was a great introduction to something that looks very mosaic and color worky and yet was just slip stitches. First time I made bobbles too, and then again with short rows, and this was brioche. This was also my first time with brioche. If you've never done brioche, the videos were very good. Here I've made probably quite a few mistakes, but it's on a size 4 needle. There's so much other stuff going on. If you're one who makes a mistake, don't rip it out. Just keep it going. Steven's very cool about that, and that's why I think so highly of him, because he's all about like, don't rip it out, don't recount stitches, just we'll add decreases or increases, we'll figure it out. There's no rules in knitting. There's no knitting police. Calm it down, it'll be good. Then we had these crazy broomstick stitches. Those were really, really fun. They were definitely hard to learn, but every time it took like 8 stitches away. So as soon as you got one done, you'd be like, yes, only like 20 more. And then, yes, only 10 more. You know, it felt very like tick, tick, tick. It was awesome. And then we had this awesome border, which I liked. I know a lot of people did modifications on the border, which anybody can do whatever they wanted. This was what I was excited to see. I wanted this like zebra bubblegum kind of vibe. And so that's why I decided to go with what the pattern was. I saw a lot of people with like neutrals and a pop with shawlography, and those ones were gorgeous. So not only did I learn so many techniques with this, what I also learned is if you pick 5 crazy colors, or in this year's case, the MusiKAL, if you pick 4 crazy colors, you might get kind of an intense, crazy shawl, which if you're excited about that, go for it, man. Let your flag fly, man. That's awesome. If you're one who wants something wearable that you can just throw on and not really have to think what you're wearing underneath, what's your coat, what's all that, you might want to go to like the shawlography page and look to see what shawls, like their finished projects, draw your eye. And you're gonna come over here. Sorry, Mahogany's shifting. Little girl. You might want to go to the shawlography page because that one had lots of individual colors and he wanted high contrast, and it even had a similar theme. Shawlography is choreography in a shawl. This one's a musical in a shawl. So I recommend, if you're unsure or if you still haven't chosen your colors, go to the shawlography page and look up at some of those finished projects, and whichever ones draw your eye, kind of use those kind of a color palette. This one was obviously 5 colors, but make modifications. Think of it as like a recommendation. And that way, it won't look the same, but it might be the same kind of chaotic vibe, Another thing I loved about this one was that there was very little second sock syndrome, which is when you knit something on one side and then you have to repeat it on the other side. That can get A, kind of boring, and B, difficult, because you have to keep your tension exactly the same on each side. And especially if you're purling on one side, whereas the other side you knit, or just you put it down and you then pick it back up, maybe you're not feeling the same, your tension can be different. It's a little tricky. With this one, the only part we had to do like twice was this part right here. And then we had to double it on that side. Everything else, once you did once, you were done with that and you were set. For these others that I'm going to talk about, there was a lot of like put half of them on hold and then do the other half and go on and so forth. So just really interesting, different ideas there. And some people might love that kind of, symmetrical vibe and things like that. But that's just one, something that I definitely enjoyed more about this than I did about other shawls. Just one more thing about this. So this one was a braided I-cord. And at first it was little shrimps. Again, I was worried that it was going to get caught on like doorknobs and stuff. So I wanted to pin it down. I saw it on Ravelry in one of the comments of that week. Somebody said, hey, this is what I did. And I ended up loving that idea so much that I took their idea. I commented, hey, this is lovely. I'm going to snag it. And then I posted a picture for myself. I think Steven looked at these comments and then got inspired for the next year, because this ended up being a very big thing in Twists and Turns. Before I go there, though, I want to talk about in between shawlography and the next year, which was Twists and Turns. I liked making this shawl so much and learned so many things. I ended up making Starflake and going back and watching the videos. That one I didn't even pay for the pattern. Sorry, Steven, I think you're doing okay, but so that you can watch the videos and figure out things. I might have had to guess at a few, like how many to cast on or how many to cast off, but it ended up working out fine. I made it for my grandmother, and it was a big shawl, and she was a petite woman. So she ended up just kind of keeping it on the couch like this and just using it as a blanket for when she was a little chilly, which gave me a great idea. And I'll talk about that later in the video. So I made Starflake out of dark blue, or maybe like mid blue, and black, and she loved it. She thought it was fabulous. The next year I made Twists and Turns, and I made that for my mother. I even, that one was 2 of one color, 2 of another color, and a contrast. I had taken yarns that I got from a trip that I went to New York, another time that I went to Texas, and both times I picked up colors that I thought she'd like, and so it was like I was thinking of her while I traveled. And my contrast color was a cowl that I had made for my godmother, her best friend. I had some yarn left over, so it needed 2 skeins for this gorgeous cowl, and I ended up using 1 and just a touch extra of this other skein. And so I thought, this will be perfect. I'm going to use the rest of it, and that way it even weaves her in. So that way it's travel, it's thoughts of my mother, and then it's even her best friend. So it was beautiful. So I was very excited about that. I ended up finishing and thinking that the rectangular shape was a little odd, but I was happy to give it to my mother because I was like, there you go. Now I don't have to make a second one for myself. I'm not jealous. To me, that one was a very arduous knit because it started out with a bunch of these kind of I-cord ideas. And then you braided them all up when you were done, and it kind of scrunched in and made this major section. Now, it was a gorgeous effect and I loved it. But what I really learned there was that I am a process knitter and far less a product knitter. In fact, I'm both, but I definitely lean towards the process knitter. And it was so hard on Clue 1 to take all this excitement and all this energy and all this joy about this mystery knit along and then just, really be diffused. It really just took the wind out of my sails because it just wasn't a joy to knit. The process itself was so hard. And it wasn't just like this where it's just one row and you're done. It was all of Clue 1. So I was behind by like probably a week from the get-go and just was so like, I don't want to do this, but I knew I wanted this gift for my mother. So I pushed through to Clue 2 and I'm so happy I did because Clue 2, 3, and 4 were all fantastic. I loved it. I used every little scrap of that contrast color because it ended up showing up a lot of different places. And so I used every little bit, which was awesome. I really liked the finished project, but yeah, that first Clue just kind of deflated me a little. So if you're new to knitting and you're unsure about whether or not you want to do this, let me just review those phrases. So I talked about process knit versus product knit. Some people really want like that sweater that they see on Instagram, and so they want a product to be made. Other people just really like the action of knitting, and so they consider themselves more of a process knitter. They enjoy the process rather than the product itself. I consider myself both because I really do like knitting and I want something to just kind of like my fingers to do, but I want there to be a product. It's not like I'm making this, just to rip it out and put the ball back in the shelf or something. That's why I make baby blankets and things like that. But usually they're as gifts and then I give them away. So that Twists and Turns mystery knit along, it was because it was a product knit. I had to give my mom a gift. Had to is a strong word, but still, I wanted to give my mom that gift. So I wanted to be able to finish it. Therein lies the product bit. So the process of Clue 1 was really annoying, but then the rest of it was great. It was a joy. There was cables. They looked like little owls. You did the little I-cord bits. It was awesome. There was some second sock syndromes, and there was even a point where they wanted you to purl way more. Instead, I just added one row, and then therefore I was working the back side and knitting instead of purling the front side. So yeah, make little modifications, as you see fit. There are no rules. It's okay. No one's going to get that close and say, there's a little mistake. And if they are, you can tell them to back off or be like, hey, good eye. That's true. I'm a human. A human made this. This isn't a machine. So that was Twists and Turns. Like I said, I did Starflake as well and Shawlography. Behind me is Geogradient. This one, if you know, you know, there was some controversy, but it ended up with, let's call it diversity in the shawls. It ended up with some shawl differences, which was really fun. I'm going to move out of the way. You'll be able to see what I did with the center. I had finished Clue 1 by the time all the stuff was ended up being modified. And instead of ripping it back because I had cut all the different pieces, I didn't necessarily want to run out. I ended up making just little patches and sewing them on. So this is what I did with mine. And you can see these little pieces here. To be honest, I don't necessarily love this shawl because when I see this, I still kind of see old things. But the rest of it's so great. And when you wrap it around your neck, you can't even hardly see anything. There was some awesome garter sections. There was some eyelets. Then there was these little chevron-y bits, which was so cool. And I really liked that. Again, I was worried that this was going to get caught on stuff. As soon as I blocked it, it's all matted with itself, so it's never going to be an issue where it gets caught on a door. Then we had the dip stitches, which was cool. And my major modification that I did with this one is the border. They wanted more dip stitches to keep going and then just to add tassels. I wanted this to be like a schlanket. I wanted it to be big and cozy. So I never made Slipstravaganza, but it's one of the ones I really like. But I realized the thing that I like the most about Slipstravaganza is the border. So I decided to make the Slipstravaganza border for my Geogradient. And it even, maybe I picked up too many stitches or something like that, but it ends up being a little rippled, which I genuinely like. I think it's fun. And there was another thing, it's if you see the shawls, it like looks like it's about to go into a triangle and then it cuts off at the end. I want it to be a true triangular shawl, so I actually added a little triangle bit. You see right here, this was just something that I like made up the math and figured it out. To me, it looks a little stained glassy. So there's some black here and then those 3 layers of the gray. And then that meant that I had to figure out when it came to the dip stitches what to do. So here I added some like, more garter stitch with the grays. It's just a matter of, figuring it out. And this part I did enjoy, like I like doing and trying to math it out. But really, when you bunch it all together, you don't see much of it anyway. That, it's sprawled out like this, you can see all the details. But if you wear it around your neck, it's, all these little things you don't really notice. So if you mess up, don't stress. That also meant that with this, I ended up kind of modifying the way that the corner was. I don't think Slipstravaganza had that. I think it was more of a crescent shape. So yeah, this one's got like a triangle point that I figured out and then pivoted. So it's just about making it up as you go and making the modifications that you want. I posted all of those things on Ravelry to see if anybody else wanted to do it or if they just found it interesting. I love going through, seeing people's colors right now, going through the other ones and seeing what modifications they made. To me, it just brings me so much joy to see the community all together. That's one of the biggest reasons why I do this. I learned so much. I'd never done stitches like this, twists and turns. I learned a lot. There's so many things that you can learn and just new experiences that you haven't stitched before. But also I just love the community, and that's the really big reason why I keep doing this. This shawl in particular is not my color palette whatsoever. However, I made it because I knew that we would be starting in October, so we had all of October, and then I had a wedding that was at the end of November. So that gave me 2 full months to be like, get this done by the end of November, wear this to the wedding. The wedding was on Black Friday, which in America is the day after Thanksgiving. It's, dumb commercial stuff. So everybody goes shopping, but that's the term for it, is Black Friday for the day after Thanksgiving and the end of November. And let me know in the comments and stuff if other countries have that. I don't know. Maybe it's America, maybe it's not, maybe it's gone global. So I can't imagine it being Canada. No, because it's not about Thanksgiving at all, is it? Anyway, only because Canada's Thanksgiving's a different month. But yeah, so because it was on Black Friday, they decided to have a wedding that everyone had to wear black, which, rude, way to cramp my style. I get the theme, it's fun, I like it, but it meant that now I went all gray tones, and even that was breaking the rules. Everyone else was wearing black, and here I was wearing gray and black. But I finished it in time and ended up being able to wear this, which was really fun. That's why I ended up choosing these colors. Otherwise, I would have gone with greens or blues. Those are far more my color palette, as well as jewel tones. Kind of like what I'm currently wearing. Which, as I, see my earring dangling around, this is crocheted. A friend from my Yack yarn at my local library made this. And so it's just another way that I get to enjoy yarn community. She's a embroidery stitcher, cross stitcher. And she Tunisian crochets a lot, but then she'll also crochet earrings and things like that. So it's just been fun to get to know lots of different people and different things. So I love communities in person, but I also love communities online. So yeah, if you're interested in these online communities but haven't met anybody in person, look up your stuff online. Go to either local yarn stores or local libraries. And believe it or not, it doesn't even have to be your town's local library. I got lucky and it is my town's, but I also have on my Google Calendar like 3 or 4 other cities that are very close nearby, like 10 minutes away. They're yarn stores. So I can go to other local yarn libraries if I choose to. It's not like they check your library card or your address. You can just go and chat with people, just get to know them. So I love the community aspect, which is why I did it last year as well. Last year, having learned if you choose crazy colors, so this one was because I had a sanctioned thing. My colors were kind of pinned in. The other ones were gifts for other people, already decided. The very first one, I chose loud and crazy colors, and I ended up getting a shawl that was loud and crazy, which I end up not wearing much because it's hard to wear something that's just got everything, because then that means that the rest of my clothes have to be very subdued. And a person who makes this doesn't own a lot of subdued things. I'm wearing sheep pants and like everything's a yes and for me. And so sometimes you gotta reel it back with colors. So that's what I ended up doing with Go Go Dynamo. I chose this beautiful blue and this like speckled white. And to me, it looks fantastic. I loved making this one. This one during October, I was in an early election judge. So that started in like September. It was such earliness that it started like mid-September. So then October 4th or whatever rolled around and I finally got to start on this. And I probably got to the end of these little shells, or whichever part was like the last thing you stitch. I can't remember if this was what we did last or whether this was what we did last. I might have even modified it to like not have to pick up stitches, to do this and then pick up that afterwards. I can't remember, but whatever it was, I was so close to finishing on election day that this was my democracy shawl, or democracy shawl. So this one I thought was fantastic. I loved every bit. I thought it was so interesting the way that these like circles all became little pieces by themselves, and then we stitched them together, and then we added this afterwards. Just crazy. It was such a what's gonna happen next shawl for me, which I love. And as you can see, to me it's very Grecian. It's very wearable and I love it. The downside is I realized that I finished this and then I put it away and never wore it. I got it out this year for this video and that's it. And I'm even looking now and I didn't weave in my ends. I haven't blocked it yet. It's just, did I want to wear it? No, because I don't often wear shawls, which is a significant bummer because this one is super wearable. I pictured while I was making it, wearing it in the summer and wrapping it around on like cool summer nights. And yet I didn't even pick it up once. I never once thought, let me grab that shawl. And now that it's winter, maybe I will, but it was done in November. I could have worn it in January. I could have worn it in February, and I didn't. So this brings me to my thing. I love the mystery knit along. I absolutely want to join and be a part of the community. However, I don't wear shawls, and I definitely don't need a fourth one. So my solution is that I'm going to make a blanket. All of these are schlanket size anyway. I talked about the star flake that I made for my grandmother. She ended up using it as a blanket by herself anyway. So to me, I'm going to commit to making it a blanket by not only, because if I do this, I'll have a shawl size, right? I'm going to use DK yarn and a 7 needle and really just commit to it being plump and big. It's probably going to be very similar to this where I just throw it on the couch. And it's okay if it's a weird shape in my opinion. I am a little hesitant if it's going to be a shape like twists and turns or that brick one that he did. There's a few others that are very hard to be blankets, but in my mind, I can then just pick up the edge, whatever shape we've got, and add something to it, make something up. I'm creative and good enough to be like, yeah, let's go for it. Which just speaking of, I'm saying I'm good enough makes me feel cocky. I just want to point out, so here, like I mentioned, I had never made a garment, and this, I had made last year, and I had only successfully made one cardigan, this one that I'm wearing, and I'd probably made 4 or 5 pullovers. So I went from being a garment maker here, and before that I was just an adventurous knitter. So you can really just learn a lot and gain confidence this way. Even my brioche stitches have gotten so much better, which is fun to know that like here years ago, this was my brioche and this is my brioche now, and to compare and really see like, I was confident and good, and here I was hesitant and watching the video the whole time and really learning. But that's the thing is learning is awesome. That's the best part of this. Also, if you're unfamiliar, I'll circle back with the brioche talk. So my DK is going to be what I do for a blanket. That means that I don't have to worry about crazy colors because a blanket isn't a wearable thing. It's something you throw on the couch and it just is cozy. So if anything, it's like more machine washable, but I'm just using stash yarn. So regardless of what everything is, I'm just kind of going with what I want more than anything. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to use a bigger needle, and all the things that I pull out, most of them, like they're one stash, and I've already balled them, which I'm realizing that I don't have the cute skeins then. But yeah, so if I show you like one ball, I in fact have 2, and it's about, I'm doubling the yardage because I want 400 yards. So even though it's 100 grams that I'm holding, I have enough yardage, hopefully. At least I have 400 yards as recommended by the skeins. So let me know in the comments if you see any downfalls to this knitting a blanket rather than a shawl, because I'm curious if like the way that they wrap around each other, is it going to use even more yardage? And if so, will I need more? But lots of them, since 2 DKs end up being more than 400 yards, I think I'll be okay. We'll see. So the first one I ended up getting at the store. So let's go backwards and not do the first one at all. These 2 colors was what I started with since I went through my stash. I was most excited about these 2. I had previously bought them to make a cowl, and I was very excited to do that because I made one that was a super intricate color work with turtles on it, and it was a very similar thing to this, where it was like a sandy color and then a blue-green ocean color for the turtle, which I loved. And I gave that away as a gift. I was even thinking, I kind of wish I had that. I want to make one for myself. So I got these. And then when push came to shove, I was like, I don't want to make the same thing again. I already knit it once, even though it's not in my possession and I don't get to wear it around my neck. I don't want to make it a second time. That's just the way I am. So I have this, and I decided this is going to be the main thing for my blanket. So both of these are from RMR Yarns. They're a local Chicago dyers. They used to be a yarn store, but now they don't have a brick and mortar, but they still hand dye. I absolutely love them. They're fantastic. So check them out if you can. So these 2 are RMR Yarns. Their colorways are in Spanish, so I'm not going to try, although I have been practicing, but still not good enough. This one I think means like those green eyes or something like that. So some kind of ojos de verde. And then this one's yellow, and I don't even remember the colorway. Kasi? Maybe that. These both are gorgeous. I love them together, and the yellow's really tonal. I don't know if it's picking it up. Yeah, you got some of that. And so together, I just loved it. This was what I wanted to start with. Then I decided that I was going to add a dark blue right here. This one's Leading Men fibers. I got this at Yarnify in Chicago on a Chicago yarn crawl. This I got at YarnCon in Chicago. So all this is very like, I got it in my stash when I was doing something fun. And for this I had somewhat plans. This I just really liked. So these 3 are just fantastic together. And so at first I was trying to find something in my stash that was going to work, like a teal or something, and I had a lot of almost theirs, not quite. So I decided that I was going to splurge and get something that I wanted from my local yarn store, Miss Purl's in Beverly in Chicago. And I got this fun little like Kermity grasshopper green. So these are my colors and I'm very excited. So all 3 of these are DK, and this one's actually worsted because the DK selection that was there was like a really dark heathered green, and I was like, maybe, but then I saw this worsted and I was like, let's go for it. There'll be one extra plumpy section. It'll be fine. Previously in my shawls, I've done that one that I talked about, twists and turns, where the purple was kind of like a nod to my godmother, my mom's best friend. That was actually a sport weight and it ended up going fine. So this one, if anything, I might run out of the most, just because it is worsted. I still got two balls, but I think I end up being just about 400 yards. Whereas this, I've got plenty of extra. But I do have, instead of doing mohair dares, I've got some ideas of more stash yarns I have. So I'm wearing a DK sweater here, and one of the balls that I used here, I've got a lot of extra. So I thought that can be one of my mohair dares, and only as like a standalone. So a lot of his has been like color pops. So this is something I got in New York in Nitty City, and it's got this slight variegation. So depending on whether I want it to be a lighter green or a darker green, I'm going to do center pull versus outside pull. And I'll just use it as I see fit. So that one's going to be a little bit added, which I think is really fun. When I do the color shift and I make it black and white, these two look very similar, the blue and the green. But in real life, I'm seeing that they're different enough. However, I know that the contrast, when you just have them in balls next to each other, can be very different than when it's like one little pop of one little stitch popping through. So if these two need to be high contrast, then I have a different mohair dare moment. Where is it? Bam! This fun little teal, which I'm very excited about. This also was at my local yarn store, and she was like, she just recommended it as a fun little add-on, and I was like, girl, you're right. Like, let's go for it. I think it was like $3 extra. I was like, come on, this is awesome. See, it's just so pretty, and it's in real life, it's far enough away from here, like this like green multicolored one. Right now, it's showing very similar, but either way, And she was like, yeah, it'll be like 2-3 rows. Like it'll be fun. So I'm loving that. I'm so excited. Again, let me know in the comments if you think that there's any downfalls that I'm missing. Bigger needle. I thought about the fact that I was just going to need like a 40-inch cord and then the extra that Steven recommended. And then I was like, wait, it's going to be like twice as big. I think I got an extra cord and one of those extenders. That way, in case I need extra length, I've got it. That was the only other thing that I had thought of. So let me know if there's anything that I'm thinking of. So like I said, I love the community aspect. These are my colors. Let me know if you're thinking about making this, what colors you're thinking about making. Are you still on the fence? Are you one of those who like waiting after clue 1 or after clue 2 to see what it looks like and then you join in, which is awesome. Go for it. That's cool. Are you one who's never made it before and you're just kind of watching on the sidelines? I say go for it as well. It's fun. You learn so many new techniques, and it's cool to be that adventurous knitter, to just... Because then when you go other places, if you're one who goes to like yarn stores or you go to a, like I said, Chicago Yarn Con for me, but if you go to a conference where people are doing something arty and crafty, there might be people who are like, oh, that's the, if there's one object that knitters know and they don't know anything else, it might be whatever Stephen West's mystery shawl is, so if you show up wearing it, you might strike up a conversation with someone and they, I either thought about knitting it or I made it myself and these are my colors. And then you get a fun little conversation that you weren't anticipating. So I highly recommend. I think that that's pretty cool. So yeah, are you going to join? I hope so. Do you look on the boards? I have a few questions that I wanted to ask because I knew I would forget, and sure enough, I did. Are you one who looks on the Ravelry boards? Because again, as I mentioned, I love to look at the colors and figure everything out and see what everybody else is doing. Kind of, especially this year, I was like, what are the people who have fun colors doing? I want to see, And what's your favorite musical, since it's MusiKAL? I absolutely loved on some of the boards that people were saying, because this is my favorite musical, here are the colors I chose as an homage. Like, quite a few people were doing Rocky Horror Picture colors, which I absolutely love. And then like Singing in the Rain colors. Somebody was even just referencing like a Morton salt can. So it doesn't even have to be musicals. It can just be, taking inspiration from something. I have a pair of chopsticks that I absolutely love the color combo. And I keep thinking one of these days that I'm going to make as a color inspo, take those chopsticks and make that into my mystery knit along color palette. So yeah, do you take inspiration from photos? Do you take inspiration from other people on the boards? Or are you taking inspiration from musicals? I absolutely am so excited about the MusiKAL. I feel like he's going to reference different musicals in here, which I think is really fun to do all that. I went to go see in New York The Music Man, so that one is a personal favorite of mine just because I have that fun moment of seeing it. I love seeing Six. I got to see that as well. Very cool. Henry the Eighth's Wives. But one just classic for me is Willy Wonka, the old 70s version with it's a musical. I gotta say, that might be my favorite musical. Although the first one I ever saw in Chicago live was Spamalot, and that's a great one to start with is Spamalot. Wicked's a classic. There's just so many fantastic musicals. So I really hope that he references more music and soprano and tenor and baritone and all that, because it just brings me so much joy, and I'm so excited. As far as predictions go, it's always fun to make predictions, as I said, but not to have expectations. I think that we probably will not have brioche, because we had brioche and shawlography, and then we went into a bit of a lull. No brioche for twists and turns, and no brioche for Geogradient, and then bam, we had brioche and Go-Go Dynamo. So I am predicting that we will not have brioche. But if you are new to knitting or new to brioche, let's talk about brioche for a second. If there is brioche this year, brioche has two different significant looks. So here is the brioche section, and you can see kind of my blue and my white in the background. And then when you switch it, you can see the white stand out a lot more and blues in the background. The other colors that I've got do that really well as well. So yellow is the one standing out. You can see yellow has the knit stitches. So that one is the brioche there. And then the opposite side is that the blue stitches are standing out and yellow is the background player. So if he talks about brioche this year and you're unfamiliar, this is just an example of when he mentions, okay, you'll have one in the forefront and one in the background. So this is my right side, and I wanted that light blue to be the forefront one rather than the background. So you can see that that is what ended up happening. We've got the little V's. The yellow is still pretty prominent, but it's just in the background. And so we've got the blue V stitches, and then this like much more gappy is the yellow. Again, the back side then is the opposite. Yellow is the V's, and then blue is the like loose kind of, they're V's as well. That's why it's tricky. But so this is brioche. If he ends up talking about which color do you want to pop more, that's just an example of what the two things can be. But yeah, I love that I learned a lot more with brioche. There are ways to fix brioche and modify mistakes, but I say leave them in. It's fine. You're not going to notice. People aren't going to get that close. You might be one that like really far away notices it and can say, oh, I see this little spot here. But just remember that that was like the time you were watching something or your little October moment, That's part of the reason why I like making these is you can picture where you were when you were making it. It gives you a little time capsule. So I do not think there will be brioche this year. I do think that the outcomes are kind of going to look similar to shawlography. That's just my prediction. But I do think it's going to be far more right side, left side. He's talked about that we need cords. to put stitches on hold. So I anticipate, similar to Geogradient, that there's going to be kind of a right wing, left wing. For my own personal benefit, the fact that I'm making a blanket, I'm hoping we get crescent, triangular, those kind of shape shawls. I am hoping it is not more shaped like a scarf, but that's just me. What are your predictions, and what shape of shawl are you hoping for? Let me know in the comments, and yeah. I'll be lurking on the Ravelry board, so you might be seeing me there. And maybe you'll see me again. Maybe I'll do a quick little update with Clue 2, Clue 1, all the things, and tell you what's going on. So from my crafty house to yours, have a nice time. I hope you enjoy. And let's say, Mahogany, let's say goodbye. Yeah, goodbye and have a great day. You old kisses, thank you. Have a great time. And remember, if you're not enjoying it, just put it down and walk away. Life's too short.